Looking for the best music for you.
Good evening and welcome to Come Play with me. I'm Barbara Saxberg. This evening we have something new for you. We're pleased to welcome our friends from Superior Theatre Festival. They're here this evening with an artist panel to tell us about a project they've been working on called Undercurrents. You'll be hearing from the various creatives and artists who've helped this project come to fruition. Some housekeeping first. If for any reason your live stream stalls during the broadcast, just refresh your page. And if for any reason the stream stops, we'll pause the show and put up a new link as soon as possible. So if that happens, watch for a new Go Live link in the Facebook group. So who is Superior Theatre Festival? It's a professional, multidisciplinary arts festival that launched in Thunder Bay 5 years ago. In the last 5 years, they've produced musicals, new and tested, plays, a Canadian classic, and some new work by local playwrights, one-man shows, puppet shows, and a devised theatre piece about Thunder Bay with international directors from places as far away as Taiwan. What makes the festival special is that it facilitates collaborations between artists from Thunder Bay and artists from other parts of Canada. These collaborations inevitably create new work for the participants and enrich their own artistic practice. The work presented has been challenging and entertaining, and it always pushes form. Over the last 5 years, the festival has also mentored a young company in a variety of contexts and has provided free master classes to help enrich their artistic lives. Next week, the Superior Theatre Festival will be running online through their website beginning August the 18th through to the 23rd. And now I'd like to hand things over to STF's Outreach Manager, Jessica Kresnichuk, who will be moderating the discussion this evening.
Thanks, Barbara. Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here and to share some behind the scene makings of Superior Theatre Festival's Undercurrents and some of the people that made it possible. It's been really exciting to see all of the pieces in process, and we can't wait to share it all with Thunder Bay and the world. I would like to now read to you our land acknowledgement on behalf of Donna Marie Barata and the Superior Theatre Festival. Superior Theatre Festival's operations reside in the Robinson Superior Treaty Territory, which have been built on the traditional lands of the Ojibwe people of Fort William First Nation. We acknowledge that we are not the original caretakers of this land, and so we would first like to thank you for your stewardship of the land and for allowing us to come together in your territory. At Superior Theatre Festival, we are committed to building relationships with the First Nation people in this community, and will continue to build that relationship each year so they feel comfortable and welcomed within our institution. Our sincere goal is to honor that relationship by walking hand in hand together. We've been thinking about what we can do to be better allies, and we want to encourage you to think about shopping at First Nations businesses or donating to Beanigan, which during our fundraiser, which we're having a fundraiser on Saturday, August 22nd from 7 to 8 p.m. Right on our website. This organization is who will be the proceeds from our fundraiser. That's where they will be going. Beanigan is an organization that helps Anishinaabe women, and they have a crisis home and they have a family healing agency. Our fundraiser is called Empowered Together, and if you cannot watch the fundraiser on Saturday, it will be left online for you to watch at your convenience and to donate at any point. I would now like to bring on Donna Marie Barata, who is Superior Theatre Festival's Artistic and Managing Director. She has acted as conceiver, producer, director, and choreographer for Undercurrents. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Jessica. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. So I want to start from the very beginning of this project. It's been a long time in the making, and the process it took to get to where we are now, which is less than 1 week away from the festival and the release of Undercurrents. But first, we need to know a little bit about the project, what Undercurrents is. Can you tell us about it?
Yes. So it is 6 choreographic works, and they are to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Thunder Bay. So basically, I commissioned 6 musicians to write music that would honor the place that we live in some way. And there was a lot of freedom in what those prompts were for the musicians. But we did ask them to have some freedom with what they thought Thunder Bay meant to them. And in the same process, hand in hand, I was connecting with dance organizations in Thunder Bay. We reached out to all of them, and we were fortunate to have 5 come forward to say they wanted to be involved. And the 6th one is the one that I ended up directing and choreographing. And that was meant to be a community-led piece that was still community-led, but of course it had a different form. Yeah, so I know we can talk about how the form changed in a moment, but that was
Yeah.
what it is, yeah.
And where did your inspiration for Undercurrents first come from? What inspired you to start this project?
So a couple of things. Each year with the festival, we've been trying really hard to incorporate more dance in the festival. As a multidisciplinary arts festival, we were finding that we were doing more theater, more music, musicals, which of course have dance combined. But it was our second year that we had our first duet, and that duet came from, well, originally one of the dancers was from Sault Marie. And then out of that, then the next year we had a full dance company. And then in our 4th year, we weren't able to, we didn't get enough funding to have another dance element. So I was feeling that I really wanted to honor the good work that's happening in this community. I grew up as a dancer in Thunder Bay, and I know how incredible the work is that they do. So I wanted to find an opportunity to find a platform for something like this. I feel that dance is the perfect medium to celebrate a 50th anniversary. I feel that the work that you're going to see is indicative of a lot of variety of the different styles that people do here within this community. And we wanted to find a way to celebrate the 50th of Thunder Bay in our own way. So that's sort of the inspiration for the project.
Lovely. So this year has kind of been a whirlwind, I think, for most people. What was your original vision for this piece, and how did it evolve to what it has become? I think ever since COVID-19 hit, there has been so much uncertainty, especially in the theater community, for what the future would look like. So how has that affected the project?
Oh, dramatically. The project, as you said, it's been a year in the making. We were starting in the fall, right after really, usually even before the festival ends, we were thinking about what the next year will be. So we had already been connecting with studios and musicians, but it changed dramatically. It was meant to be a roving piece. It was meant the audience was meant to start in one location along the waterfront with one of the choreographic pieces, and then move to the next one, and then the next one, and the next one, and they would have all 6 in a row. I was playing along the number of 50. It was supposed to be 50 dancers in the first section of 5. So 10 dancers from each dance studio, which would equal 50, and then 50 community dancers in the final piece in the Spirit Garden. And it was supposed to be 50 minutes of content. So in all of that, it would add up to 50 minutes, not including whatever time it would take for audience members to move from one piece to the next. And there was something really exciting about that because people could see hopefully those spaces in a very different light. And for those, and there's so many pathways, so it is quite accessible, but if people really can't do that kind of movement, then they could have stayed in the Spirit Garden and just watched that final piece. So there was a lot of variety and options because we really wanted it to be pay what you can or free. That's what we were working towards, so that there would be no barriers there. What did it change to? Well, it definitely changed. We had many contingency plans, and we waited as long as we could to make the final decision about, okay, we were realizing that audiences won't be coming together. And the space changed, meaning that the amount of dancers we could have in a location. So when we realized that having 10 dancers from a dance studio performing a section was not going to happen because they couldn't be in a studio to rehearse, and we couldn't have that many people together, and we had to socially distance. So we decided, okay, why don't we try solos? And they were very keen on doing that. And then as we got a little bit closer and things started opening up at the end of May, Spirit Garden is a huge space. So they thought, we can still socially distance, rehearse in the Spirit Garden, and we can have 3 people. So they had a trio in that section. So the biggest group that we have is a trio. We have 2 solos and we have 2 duos. And so they found ways of adapting, as dancers are so good at that, because so many times they're rehearsing in a small dance studio and then they have to change the choreography, take bigger steps here, whatever, to fill the stage that they're actually on. So I found that this was definitely the right project for this because they're so adaptable.
Mhm.
The other thing that changed was with the contingency, we were also funding was quite challenging because we had to reapply, rewrite grants. Some we haven't even heard about yet. And so that was all the way up until the end of May. We were still waiting to hear things. And we were really fortunate that the City of Thunder Bay came through by the end of May, that we were able to move forward. At one point, I thought we might just have commissioned music.
Mhm.
And then we have to wait and do the next year. And so we were just fortunate that we could still move forward as things opened up.
Mhm. And what was the rationale for pivoting to filming the dance pieces? I
The
guess.
question, yeah. Well, I started to think that that might be the only way we could do it, because we could limit the amount of people on the set. And at that point, interestingly, we were really fortunate that phase 3 opened up on the first day of filming, the
Mhm.
very first day. But we had planned for 10 people at the most. So that meant that just in the community piece that I did, I had to limit up to 7 participants in the section, sort of Stephanie's group section, and the chair dance section, 7 people, so that we would have crew with us. And then I was really hoping it would open up because our American Sign Language section that is so beautiful had more than that. And so we were fortunate that we could go ahead with that in the end. That was really sort of on the edge. We weren't sure. Filming seems to be a great medium. We've only worked with ephemeral work, so that we don't really have the greatest recordings of the work we've done. They're sort of back of the house. So this is the first time that we've really had great recording of something that we've done, and it's quite inspiring for me too, and thinking about how we move forward with the festival and how we record the work we're doing, because
Right.
it certainly changed it.
Yeah, definitely. And there are so many beautiful places outside in Thunder Bay. How did you choose which locations you wanted to use, and why are they each significant?
So when I think about Thunder Bay, I think about the duality between the industrial aspect and then the leisure aspect. And ever since I was a little girl growing up here, the waterfront was both of those things. And so, and it's evolved with each new mayor that's come in, how the plans have changed and how things have evolved to where it is now. It's quite exciting where they can coexist quite happily, but it is a site of change. And so that's one of the reasons I chose the waterfront as most of our locations. But I wanted to make sure, and even along that waterfront is the iron ore dock, which is this huge imposing structure that is so gorgeous and is not used in the way that it used to. It used to have a railway that was on top where ships unloaded cargo onto. It's still there. And right across from it, you also see a relic of a grain elevator that's not in use. And you'll see a little bit of that in the film as well. So those sort of areas. And then I wanted to make sure that we captured the beauty of the nature that's all around us in so many ways, by seeing the water, by seeing areas like we'll have a whole beach scene where dancers are dancing on the beach, just because that, I think the duality of the two things kind of going hand in hand was really interesting and inspiring to me to think about how could I use those elements? How could they dance in sand? It's very difficult. How could they dance in water? It's extremely difficult because water has weight. And how that affects the movement. And so there were challenges that I was actually excited to explore in that process as well.
Very cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Donna Marie. We will be chatting again with you a little later on. We'll see you in a bit.
Okay, thanks, Jessica.
So this project has been a huge collaborative effort. Once the vision was established, the creation process could begin. One of the first steps that had to happen, like Donna Marie said, was the creation of the music, so the commissioned music for the project. I want to welcome on Jean-Paul Derouver. He is an accomplished musician, producer, composer, and engineer in his own right, as I'm sure many of you know. And he is Undercurrents' musical lead, recording supervisor, editor, and has also contributed as a composer. Thanks for joining us tonight, Jean-Paul.
Thank you very much for having me.
So you're a very busy musician who has collaborated with numerous people and projects. Where does your inspiration come from when you're creating music? Is it an idea that develops, or does it come from a place more organic?
Well, for me personally, it kind of It depends. Sometimes it stems from a musical idea that kind of hits me, and other times it'll be a lyrical idea, and I kind of move forward from that.
Yeah.
It kind of depends. I try not to. I try to let things happen organically,
Mhm.
as opposed to going out and be like, today I must write a song about this topic. Just more like, like be inspired wherever. So like a song that I've been working on recently was inspired by a tweet that I saw about a doctor in the US that's been dealing with the COVID situation. So all of a sudden
Mhm.
that triggered a thought that, okay, this person had to carry around 3 letters with him at all times because he didn't know if he was going to see his wife and 2 kids anymore. So he
Wow.
had to carry, like, instantly I knew that's a song. Okay, great. So I can write with that. Other times I'll hear a sound and I'll be like, that's such an interesting sound. What else could go around that? And I kind of use that as the inspiration. So it kind of depends for me.
Yeah, for sure. When did your process begin for Undercurrents?
Wow. When did we start? Quite a number of months ago. I'm trying to remember exactly when, but um, I personally, because I was sort of working on the bigger Undercurrents piece,
Mhm.
as opposed to the 5 individual songs done by the other musicians. So I was actually holding off until those 5 came in order to get started, because I wanted to make sure that what I was doing was going to be complementary,
Right.
or and also not step on toes in terms of being identical in content, that kind of thing. I wanted to make sure it was nice and diverse.
Mhm.
So my process actually started once the other musicians had kind of at least given me an indication of what they were going to be doing.
Yeah.
So for example, is it going to be acoustic guitar, bass? Is it going to be a piano thing? Is it a dance thing? Traditional, whatever it's going to be. So as long as I knew roughly what they were going to be doing, then I knew that, okay, what this idea that I have now is not going to mask what they're doing, and it's going to be complementary. But then, of course, once the events, the whole COVID-19 came into play, that shifted how we were going to do the event. So it didn't have to be, because originally it was going to be what's manageable to do live in a public space. Is there going to be, we had the idea of a wandering minstrel kind of, leading people through location to location. And so what would the musical theme be for them to perform? How are they going to perform that? There was a lot of other things that came into play. But basically, I was sort of waiting for a bit of a cue from the other musicians to see how I could best complement what they were going to be doing.
Yeah, for sure. Wow, it's really interesting to know. I think most of a lot of people don't think about the work that goes into it and the all the behind scenes stuff that develops and evolves as it goes on and as the world affects you and all that stuff. Um, so speaking a little bit about that, how did the fact that Undercurrents was a 50th anniversary project affect the writing of your music?
So the other musicians, I know that they kind of some of them went very literal with the anniversary aspect, the treating it as like a Thunder Bay birthday. But for myself, I treated it as, it's 50th anniversary. Yes, that's a big deal. But at the same time, we're all just living the experience of being in Thunder Bay. So how is that, like, that's our normal. That's what we're used to. So how I treated it as my experiences having lived here is what has formed my experiences about Thunder Bay. And that's where my inspiration came from, was about Thunder Bay in general, as someone who's lived here for a portion of those 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't so much okay, how do I write something jubilant that celebrates Thunder Bay? It's more of, let's try and touch on some different aspects that have been a part of Thunder Bay, whether it's historically or are currently.
Absolutely. And I think um, just as individuals, we all have such a different experience too. And that plays to how one, creates something in their own way. And I think that's a really important thing for when creating something. It comes from, it's an individual thing. And that's what makes art so interesting, I think.
And that was one thing that we were very adamant about when we started to sit down and figure out how we were going to map this whole project out, was that we wanted to make sure that each musician had uh, had no restrictions on what they were going to create, because who's to say that somebody might not have some very critical views on the city? We didn't want to be able to didn't want to be in a position to stifle that kind of creativity and their output based on their own emotions of how they feel and view the community that we live in. They may not have
Absolutely.
had positive experiences. So
Mhm.
the pieces that have come in are kind of all over the map that way. Some of them are instrumental, some of them are very story driven. but others just kind of try to capture different emotions that we may have experienced in the times that we've lived
For
here.
sure. Awesome. Has the pandemic changed the way you created for this project?
Understatement.
Yeah.
Should have called this project Understatements. Yes. So basically, the original plan was that we were going to have all the musicians come into my studio, Blueprints, and do the recordings here. And that way, once everything came in here, there'd be a chance to kind of discuss things and then use some of those moments from those recordings as part of the bigger piece. Back when the original piece was supposed to be a 50-minute or like a 25-minute piece, totally 50 minutes again with the 50th anniversary sort of theme. So what happened there is that obviously the studio had to close to the public. So I ended up connecting with each individual musician, and whether sometimes some of them would have their own equipment at home to be able to do their own recordings. Others, I would go to their house and I would socially distance and drop off, a recorder and a microphone and some other things. And I'd say, here, give me, I kind of like, through Skype, I'd show them how to use it and everything else. And I'd sort of say, okay, give me the best possible take you can that you're happy with of your performance, and I'll work with that. Collected all the files, brought them back to my place, edited them as best I could, and then also added some instruments from my own repertoire as well. So, performers like Arlie Cox and Rodney Brown was just an acoustic guitar and a voice, but now it's got mandolin, it's got drums, piano, all these other instruments that were not part of their original vision, but definitely help fill out the sound and make it more of a special thing. Some of the other musicians, Sam Lewis and Classic Roots, their pieces were already kind of fully formed when they came in, but a little bit of mixing and tweaking on my end to make sure that everything sort of matched with the rest of it. So that was everything was kind of done via distance that way, which was, not ideal, but definitely the more interesting approach to it, because then it was a surprise to me in terms of how things are going to turn out. And I think it's a more interesting way of doing it, because now you have these musicians that not only have their own creative input in terms of the writing, but now they are in charge of telling you, this is what I feel is my best performance, or this is how I feel it should be done, rather than an external voice saying, no, take that, let's try that again for the 7th time, because I don't think you hit that one note right. To them, that note is right. And I think that's a really cool way of looking at it, is that it's truly their perspective on how they wanted to have the piece presented.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of the music, we want to share a couple of videos of the earlier stages of the music that you were working on back in May, when you took over Superior Theatre Festival's Instagram page. So these are unmixed, unmastered demos from the Undercurrents project. And at this stage, there was still time for things to change and be rewritten. So it'll be exciting to hear what the final outcome was when Undercurrents is released. So let's take a look.
Here are some little samples. The first one is a bit ambient. Want to get in real deep into this stuff right now. I was doing some field recordings yesterday at the marina, and I only had about maybe 5 minutes to do so, but I found some gold with a bird and a tree. Let's see how this panned out. So this is the bird, and this is the sound that I was making while hitting the tree stump. So the bird turned out like this, while the tree stumps ended up like this. add an effect called the altar boy to that drum beat, and now you've got this. There are a couple other sounds in there, including this type of snare, which is the sound of me hitting a piece of metal I found on the ground, as well as this one, which is the sound of me throwing a rock into the water. Put it together, and what do you got?
So it really makes you see how much work goes into something, I think, just to show what the process is. I think there's lots of people that just see the end product of something, and the fact that, you know, there's all of these components that go into something. It's the thing that you don't see, right? That makes it really great. And so I just think like just putting that process out to the world is important, because it shows people how much work goes into something. So now that you've added all of the other musicians' pieces, has the music changed and morphed a lot since you last shared it with us back in May?
Wow, that was back in May. Wow. Well, first of all, let me just comment that it's incredibly weird watching your own stories on Instagram broadcasts. It's something I'm like, you know that people are going to see it, but then you realize that, oh, this is being broadcast now.
Yeah.
I should have I should have done it differently. But yeah, the things have definitely changed. I mean, there's some of the clips that you saw didn't end up even making the cut at all. The whole sequence there about, you know, the field recordings where I captured the bird sounds and all the tree stumps and all that stuff, that's all gone. Partially because when we switched to the film version of the production, we had to reduce the number of minutes that the piece would eventually be, because we were also trying to make sure that we had limitations on the number of performers and stuff like that. So we didn't want to stretch too far, so we reduced the scope of the project. So a lot of it got left on the cutting room floor, as the quoting the film terminology.
Mhm.
So that's like there's a lot of content that's actually missing from that. But there's also things that changed, you know, through discussions with the rest of the team and everything else. Okay, well, this sequence is really upbeat, but it needs to be countered with something that's a bit slower immediately after it, so that the next piece, which is a bit faster, all of a sudden can ramp back up. So it's not just, you know, energy, energy, energy all the time. You need your hills and valleys throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's one thing that I thought was really interesting to share that we couldn't show you today, and that's because when I was doing all the demo work, one of the other places that I found inspiration for this whole project was I went down to the marina and I was looking at all the locations that we were planning to film in, and I was looking at all the public art, and I took lyrical inspiration from a lot of the public art pieces down there. So those included, you know, poetry and other written text as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I ended up doing is using that as lyrical content. So 3 out of the 4 pieces that I ended up writing for Undercurrents ended up staying in the production. But there's one that the author has actually passed away, and we were not able to get the rights to include their poetry in this particular piece. So there's one piece that had to be rewritten with alternate lyrics and everything else, so that we could continue to use that idea as part of the production. But that was another thing, is typically when I write, I'm always writing, you know, it's 100% original content. But in this piece, there is traditional singing by the Thunder Mountain Singers, Dave Wilkinson Simard, who you'll hear from later. That's his group that we took a sample from that to have as part of the musical component. And then there's also the lyrical component, which has inspiration from and you know, excerpts from this poetry that we found at the actual Prince Arthur's Landing site.
Wonderful. How has Undercurrents been different than other projects you've worked on?
It's different because it's open-ended in terms of, you know, whatever you want to do, you can create whatever it is you want to create. But at the same time, as someone who comes from, you know, composing background, working with film and television and stuff like that, I do know that there is an end product that has to have a certain cinematic kind of quality to it. There's got to be a bit of an arc to it, a bit of a story. And it's also, having worked with dancers and choreographers before, I also know that there's certain speeds that are a bit more manageable for dancers, as opposed to something that's, just like sounds really, really neat, but incredibly difficult to dance to.
Yeah. Cool.
So.
Well, thanks for giving us a glimpse into how everything came together and the process of it. I can't wait to hear it all. I'm really excited. If you, our audience, want to learn a little bit more about what John Paul's been doing with Superior Theatre Festival, you can go check out our Instagram page and click on John Paul's picture. Thanks so much, John Paul. We'll see you in a little bit.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. So the next step of the process was to get local dance studios, choreographers, and dancers on board. We're going to welcome Donna Marie Beretta back to speak to that a little bit.
Hi, Jessica.
Hi. So I understand that you created a choreographic recipe for the choreographers to focus their work. Could you speak to that and explain what that is?
Absolutely. Roughly 6 or 7 years ago, I trained with City Company in Saratoga Springs, and it was sort of a life-altering time. It was a month-long intensive, and there were people from around the world that came to this, and we were expected to create something new every week. And in that element of having to create, you push past boundaries of what you already have done or what you think your kind of go-tos. So what I like about this is in each of those processes, they gave us sort of an ingredient list. And the ingredient list was really long in some cases, and you had to make sure that you had those things in the dance, or in this space it was theater, in this theater piece or this creation piece in general. And I have taken inspiration from that since then. And for me, it has really changed the way I look at things, especially in creating in any form. And so dancers had certain things they had to have in the piece. For instance, I said they had to have elements of space that were body shape inside out and upside down, curved, asymmetrical. They had to have backward curve, zigzag, straight forward. Like they had to have those somewhere. They had to have elements of time, a minimum of 3 seconds of movement, silence within the dance. They had to use half notes, whole notes, 16th notes. They had to have 3 explosions somewhere in the dance. They had to reveal a space the audience didn't know existed. They had to have a revelation of some sort of object. They had to have 3 radically different surprise entrances. And they had to turn our attention to nature, which was actually quite easy with this piece because of where they were located. But I use it too. I used it too. And for instance, I used these little trees that a trio uses at one point that these seedlings. And so just trying to bring our attention back, which, is an ancient Greece convention that came out of this idea of laurel branches. And so trying to incorporate those things, there's many more things, but that gives you an idea of kind of the idea of a recipe. I let the musicians know as well in the process that this is what the dancers were going to be doing. And it changed a little bit because, of course, with COVID-19, we didn't have a lot of people, so I couldn't say group formations, things like that. So, and I was originally going to have an element of fabric that they had to use at some point in the piece. And I got rid of that in light of the fact that it would be one person. And there, you can do so many wonderful things with an element like fabric, but you kind of need more people to help make that happen.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I think it would have been such a challenge in some of the spaces because there was quite a bit of wind in certain places. Mm-hmm. So that would have had its own life ultimately, even probably in the filming process.
Right.
So yeah.
How did you end up pairing the dance studios up with the musical pieces? What was that process like?
Well, that was kind of interesting. First of all, I did pair up right off the bat, Classic Roots with the Thunder Bay First Nations dance group. I'd already been speaking to Dave about that. And so that was already a pairing. And incidentally, I didn't know that they knew each other. So there was already quite a lovely sort of quick hand there. Mm-hmm. The other 4, I actually had a Zoom meeting with them. And I put their name, the studio names on little pieces of paper, and I put them in a hat. And I wanted to do it right live so they could see I was picking their name out. And then if I picked out, let's say I picked out Dance Dynamics and they were the first group, then I labeled it that way. And then I put the next thing, which was their location. And so whoever got the first one was paired with the first one I had already picked. So then they were paired that way. And the same thing with the song. It was very much equitably done. I wanted it to be visible. I wanted them to see that we were there was an excitement around that, because you just didn't know. And one of the things I did take solace in knowing is that those studios do quite a bit of different dance forms. And so they would be able to adapt and find the dancers that would be perfect for the numbers, regardless of what one they got.
Right.
And there was an excitement about, oh, I don't know that location. I have to go and see where it is and what it offers. And I wanted some of those spaces because they're unusual. They have glass, or they have wood, or they have like a deck look to them. One's very expansive. One looks like as if you go a little bit further, you're going to fall off the end of the world into the water facing the sleeping giant. They all have a very different look to them. And for instance, a lot of people didn't know that the baggage building has a terrace, which has a sort of a concrete floral sort of pattern. And I've always been inspired by that and wanting to do something there. And it felt like the right project to have someone explore what are the potentials of the grass concrete, but this actual formation that is on the ground. So yeah, that's kind of the locations connected to that idea. Yeah.
You have had many different roles within this project, including choreographing many different pieces.
Right.
How has choreographing for brand new pieces of music been different than choreographing for music that is already in the public domain?
I want to clarify, I did one big piece, but within that piece, there were sections definitely that were completely different than the other form. How is it different? I'm really excited by new work. And so although I would say that I'm just as excited to work with a piece of music that's out there, I feel like audience can sometimes have already formed an opinion about a song. They already have a video in their head. There's something connected to a song that they already know. They might even have an emotional connection to a song that's out there already, that they hear and they think of their, someone who's passed, or their ex-boyfriend, or the whatever, that they've made a connection already. And you already have that. When you have a new piece of music, they haven't made a connection. So the exciting part is to sort of reveal maybe what's in the music as well.
Right.
I certainly hope, because Jean-Paul hasn't seen a lot of what we've done yet either with his music. I hope that he is surprised by maybe some of the things that came out for us, or for me, inspirationally wise, just by hearing the music that he presented.
Right.
That was also, he was very generous in the process. He said it was 18 minutes long at the end of May. And we had to cut it down, and we kept cutting it down to finally roughly 6 minutes, 15 seconds. And he was very generous in the conversation that we had about where we could cut. So it was nice to have a little bit of hand in that too, because I could start to see something already happening when I would hear the music.
Yeah.
I'd hear the part and I'd say, oh, I love this part, this has to stay in, that kind of stuff. So It's great to work on something that's completely, ground zero, beginning, because you're a part of the whole energy of that. And you get to start creating, even though you're not physically creating it, you're starting to create in your mind.
Right. And I think this next question, I think you already kind of answered it, but around the conversations that you had with the musicians about the music that they created, and how that informed your own choreographic work. And I don't know if you have anything more else to say about that, because I think you've already said it, but I
would just say that I think the locations informed a lot too, because there was a picture I saw of Jean-Paul at one point, and I said, Jean-Paul, where is that? We have to have that space. We have to be there. And it was the iron ore dock, and I didn't know it. And I just said, I just saw that picture of you on Facebook or whatever on the internet. I have to look at that space. And so sometimes the music along with the location starts to speak to you, because you see things within the location that you can use. And that one was quite interesting, because there were stairs in there, which I didn't know existed. There were metal bars that you could pull on. And so you could start to use some of the location as a little bit of an inspiration as well.
Right. In terms of choreography, did the pandemic change how you worked at all? I think we know what this answer is. But
it's understatement. Yes, I couldn't be in a dance studio. We've always been supported by Fig Leaf Dance Center. She's been one of our sponsors from the beginning, and we always have the opportunity to use dance studio space, but we couldn't go in. So I ended up using the lawn at my camp. And that's where I brought individuals one at a time to learn. Even if they were doing a trio, I brought them one at a time to learn it. And the first person was kind of a bit more of the person I would experiment a bit more with and figure out what worked and could we use the water here. I found I was going to use the water in front of my camp, found that was not possible. It was too deep. It was deeper this year than I had imagined it being. So we had to find a new location. So there were all kinds of challenges, but I found that we ended up working a little bit more within the location. So my space, which is quite a lot of long property in the front, was the place that we figured out the choreography. And then I, videotaped it, sent it to the dancers to work with. And then we had a location one. The other flip on that is with the community work, I didn't see them until the week before we shot. I did everything filmed it on my iPhone, uploaded it to a Facebook group private Facebook group that we had, and they had to learn it from the video that I put on. And that was two things. That was the American Sign Language section, and that was the chair dance. And actually, no, more than that. There was two bridge sections as well. And I just did videos and put them up. And then I had, for one of the bridge sections, I didn't rehearse with them at all until I saw them the day of shooting. I was confident enough that they would be okay. The other one, they were great, but we rehearsed the day we rehearsed the American Sign Language. We just rehearsed in the park at Hillcrest Park. And same thing with the American Sign Language section. We rehearsed in Hillcrest Park, which is what ended up being the area that we filmed that. And the chair dance, we rehearsed on my lawn once, and then we rehearsed on the beach once, I believe. They were really quite astonishing. I was so excited with how well they knew it. And then I just needed to really tweak timing and where do you look here, what count, when do you put your hands on the chair, that sort of stuff. But they were so generous, and we had so much fun. And we were able to keep separated and socially distanced that whole time, which was great.
Awesome. So we're going to now show some pictures that were taken during the filming of some of the featured dancers and choreographers' work. So Donna-Marie, would you narrate them through for us as we go through them?
Sure. So this first photo is Haley Grant, and Haley's with Art in Motion, and she did a solo piece to Rodney Brown's music, Happy Birthday Thunder Bay. And you can see that she's on the waterfront again, but she's actually at the Tai Chi Park. That's one of our locations. The next photo is also on the marina. It's some Pier 2, and this is Ella Curry and Lainey Excel. And they did a duet in this a little bit smaller space, but you can still see how much space they have in that picture. They still worked around each other in an incredible way. And these are those, I don't know if you've seen them, but they're like deck-like, and then they have almost a cabana top, and they have a beautiful, beautiful image above them. And this one is 3 women. It's called, I'm trying to remember the name of it now, but it's 3 women. And that's the third photo. This one is what I was speaking about with the terrace at the baggage building. You can see the cement on the ground there. But in the center, there's sort of an epicenter where she begins. And this is Isabella Jedrich. I'm hoping I'm saying her name right. She goes by Izzy. And so, yeah, that is that particular one. And she did a solo, and she was absolutely stunning. In our fourth picture, these are 3 lovely ladies from Dance Dynamics. And this is China Erickson, Mariah Meredith, and Jordan Samick. And they, as you can see in this picture, have incredible acro skills. So you're going to see them do some pretty wild things. They do, cartwheels over top of those logs. It was something. I actually remember when I first saw it, I said, wow, out loud. It was very exciting. In the next picture, this is very surprising where I found this location. This is right beside the caboose, the red caboose that is in the waterfront. And there's this one little section which has a few little nesting of trees. And this is Sydney Kaninsky, and she's got her point shoes on, and we did a little thing there. The following picture, where you'll see her, the dancer in the air, this is Presley Kuapa'aho, and she was featured in the one that I was doing. And here we are on the beach. It looks a little cold because it was These young ladies were incredible. We had such incredible weather for most of all of July. And then the week we filmed, we had the crazy torrential rain and we had cold, and it was very shocking. So they worked so hard for me under not the best circumstances, quite frankly, in the cold water. And that's them. And the next picture is the three of them because they did a little trio: Gabby, Carlin, Presley Kwapaho, and Sydney Kinitsky. They're pretty great. And the next picture is Carter Caputi Campbell. And this is where I would say I was very inspired by the location. This is a ship that's cut in half. And once I saw that, I said, oh my God, this dancer has to come through that space. And so you'll see him dancing through it. Yes, with his beautiful long lines and long legs. The next picture is Daniel Stilla. This always marveled me. I said, we have to explore some things that you can do physically. Like, let's see, can you do this plank? And can you do this, between the two, can you reach? And then we started playing and we got this beautiful image. Daniel's very, very strong. So it was really nice to be able to explore that. And then behind that, you sort of see a bit of an industrial look above the staircase as well. And then our final picture is Harmony Appel. And she is so beautiful. She begins and ends the piece. And that's no mistake. I wanted to try to come full circle. I wanted it to be a full day. I wanted us to start early in the morning. And then I wanted us to end late. So we would see sort of, sun going down. And so we see Harmony at the beginning, we see Harmony at the end, do two very different things. But she starts with her feet in the water, she ends with her feet in the water. And she does this beautiful work on this dock, which seemed effortless for her. But I have to say it's a dock, so it moves. So Harmony really, really was incredible with the work we were doing.
Wonderful. Thank you, Donna Marie. Beautiful pictures of what's in store.
Thanks, Jessica.
Next, I'd like to welcome David Wilkinson Simard. He runs the Thunder Bay First Nations dance group, and he coordinated all the hoop dancers and the jingle dress dancers for Undercurrents. He recently moved back to Thunder Bay after a period of time away, and he is quickly connecting himself with multiple creative projects and cultural events in the city. He is the regional coordinator for Northwestern Ontario for the IPAA, which is the Indigenous Performing Arts Alliance, and he brings with him a wealth of experience working in Indigenous performing arts. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, David.
Thank you for having me here.
So when Donna Marie approached you about becoming involved in the project, what was it about the project that excited you?
I think first when we first started talking was, she wanted some creative freedom from us, and she wanted us to tell our own story about our relationship with, Thunder Bay. Like, it's been a very, challenging relationship, through history, and we found that, her giving us the freedom to express our own story, I thought that was a really unique opportunity to share a little bit about our culture and heritage, and to showcase, the goodness that we have and what we bring to the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it true that you formed a new dance group in conjunction with this project? Can you tell us a bit more about that and how people can get involved with your group if they are listening to this?
Oh, absolutely. Well, what happened was that years ago, I had a dance group here in Thunder Bay. I had originally started dancing with the Lions Dance Group back in the early days. And then later on, I formed my own group called the Northern Woodlands Dance Group, and we went into schools and did education programs. And then I left Thunder Bay for about 10 years, and I came back. And then when I came back here, we had been discussing about the community had been talking about dancing and telling stories in a different way, and not just in a traditional sense, but also telling about contemporary stories through dance and song. And so when when Donna and I sat down and we started talking about it, it just seemed like a good match. And then the creative process of everybody talking about wanting to get involved in dance again and getting in song, that we realized that we had this perfect mix of everybody that wanted to do things. It's just we needed somebody to pull it together, and that's kind of what I do. It's kind of my thing. So when we had this opportunity to start bringing it together, people just started jumping on board with it.
Yeah. Is there a way that people could connect with you if they want to get involved?
We're gonna do it through Facebook, and then we're also gonna be like, this is during the COVID time right now, is that this is a time when we do the education part of it, and we start and developing it, and reaching out into the community a little bit more about places and spaces and people.
Yeah. So watch out for. Do you have a name for the group yet? Or
yeah, it's Thunder Bay First Nations dance group.
Oh, that's who they are. Okay, perfect. So if you're interested, look for them as they grow and get more into the community. I hear that you had a jingle dress dancer not be able to make it at the last minute. How did that situation get resolved? I hear there's a good story behind that.
Yeah, that was kind of a unique situation. Like I got a call about 1 o'clock in the morning. Somebody telling me that one of the dancers couldn't make it. She had an emergency. So we knew, we had dancers that were excited about the project, that had been asking about it and were curious about it. So when we went to show up at the site, we were one of the ladies that had been kind of took an interest in what we're doing was just happened to be in the hotel at the Prince Arthur. And she came down to come see what we're doing, and she's a really good friend of ours. She's been in my dance group in the past. And so when we were talking about, trying to talk her into it, and the ladies were like, the other ladies too, were like really encouraging, like, come on, let's do this, you can do this. And then, one of the ladies had brought an extra dress, just in case. And the other ladies brought some beadwork for her. So it just, and she fit the dress. So it all went together. And then when, they started, rehearsing, they all, she's a professional dancer as well. Like she travels to powwows throughout the country. And so she just fit right in. And the funny thing about it was that she didn't have moccasins. And one of the other girls didn't have moccasins. So they actually just worked out perfectly. So everybody, we had 2 people without moccasins, 2 people with moccasins.
Yeah.
And, we wanted that element about the land, the earth. And I thought it was a perfect, situation for us.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. So both pieces, the hoop dancers and the jingle dress dancers, have a ceremonial aspect to them. Can you tell us a little bit about the meaning behind the prayer and ritual with the tobacco for the hoop dancers and the water element for the jingle dress dancers?
Sure. The element with the hoop dancers, we wanted to start off with a morning smudge. And what that is like we light sage, and the tobacco is used as an offering to say a prayer on behalf of everybody. Mm-hmm. So, when they're praying, the element of the smudge is fire. And in our culture, the men are the fire keepers. So, that was the purpose of Orville. He was one of our singers, and he was his children are the ones that are the hoop dancers. Mm-hmm. So he was, very involved in the process of this, and myself, we just brought out everything that he needed to do it. So he provided the song, and he provided the ceremony, and we had the tobacco, and the children use that tobacco in their dance, in their process when they started dancing. So the fire element is about the men, and we wanted to showcase, like a little bit of the ceremonial part of what First Nation people are. Yeah. And then the water component, with the woman, is the women are what we call the water keepers, so the water. And so the dance itself was about water, like they are the carriers of the water, the keepers of the water. And so we tied those 2 elements together, the water and the fire. And that's how the storyline went, with kind of sharing a little bit about our history, and a little bit about our ceremonies, and also like to to a native person that is watching that, they would understand, what the ceremony part of it was.
Right.
And for a non-native person, this is, when we're doing our offerings and our prayers, that we're doing this for everyone. It doesn't matter, who you are or where you are in the world. We're praying and we're thinking of everybody, not just ourselves.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. You have a lifetime of experience in the First Nation arts and music scene, starting from 12 years old, is that right?
Yeah.
Under the guidance and mentorship of Dr. Richard Lyon and the Lions Dance Group, who you mentioned earlier. Dr. Richard Lyon and the Thunder Bay Singers were a key factor in bringing First Nations culture and heritage back to Northern Ontario. How important was that experience for you as a youth? And what's your hope for Indigenous youth when it comes to First Nations art and music in Thunder Bay?
Well, first of all, when I got involved with dancing, it was my expression of storytelling, and it was my understanding of learning my culture, learning my heritage, my language. The ceremonies. Like, it becomes a lifetime learning.
Right.
And Richard, like when they started the dance group, that was very instrumental in my my life forward. And being a young person, myself being 12, 13 years old when I was getting into that, you're also at the age where you're getting into lots of mischief, and when you have somebody that can guide you and show you a different way of using your energy, like there's an opportunity to tell stories in a positive way. So he had a big influence, in my life, in my singing and in my dancing.
Yeah.
And like for a lot of people that are getting involved in dancing, for young people that are learning about culture and learn about dancing, there's so much history in dancing, and there's so much history in our language, and that as you become a dancer, as you grow as a dancer, they often say that you start off with a pair of moccasins, and then you move your way up. And then as you're adding things to your outfit, there's stories that go with it. And then there's legends and stories and timelines. And it becomes, when you're fully dressed and you have all of these stories, that you can tell about yourself and your family. And often, in North America, when you travel, you see a lot of people with dance regalia and dance, they have stories to tell about their lifetime. And that's often what they do through their dance. So this was a really neat opportunity to share our stories, and to for a lot of people, as well as to tell where their homeland is. And that was something that I'm going to get to in a little bit later on when we go through the pictures that will tell a story about our dancers.
Yeah. You were also a founding member of the Thunder Mountain Singers, as Jean-Paul had mentioned earlier. And some of your work can be heard in the Undercurrents track that Jean-Paul, like he said, worked on. Your group recorded 7 albums internationally and have collaborated with many musicians over the years, not to mention winning the Indigenous People's Choice Music Award for Best Traditional Album in 2010. So what future projects are in the works for the group, and how has COVID-19 affected them?
That's a really good question. I guess one of the things that, as a singer, as a performer, is that you're always, you're learning new things. You're always learning, how to adapt to things, how it affects you. And the same thing with singing. Like it's changed. Like powwows itself have changed. Like we don't, we're not allowed to have large gatherings right now. Mm-hmm. It's brought our storytelling a little bit more personal. Like that's what I find now, is a lot of our singers now are more personal, telling more personal stories about their own songs. Mm-hmm. And then the same thing with the drum, that we actually created a new drum. We had a really beautiful drums that they put a lot of work into, and our drum keeper constructed a new drum, moving forward for us. So I thought that was a really neat moment for this to be happening, that we're coming into a new age, and that the songs are different, the stories are changing, and that having our drum, and like I'm really looking forward to getting everybody together and like start hammering out some new songs and
Yeah.
new stories.
Absolutely. When people see these Undercurrent films, what do you hope they take away from watching both of your sections?
That's a good question. I guess one of the things I really wanted to, I want people to be inspired. Like that's my main goal with all of this was that, like one of the dancers that we had, Charity Morrison. She's a a very insightful person. And she's looking for challenges in her own life and telling her own story. And so I thought this when we started doing this dance, she was one of the first persons I reached out to and talked to. And she has a background not just in traditional dance, but in hip hop dancing. And she has some background in other kinds of dance. And so so I thought it was kind of neat that we were talking about what we can do going forward and how we can inspire other people. And like I said, this was all new to everybody. So like the hoop dancers that were starting, the two young hoop dancers, I wanted to really focus on young people to inspire young people to pick up the hoops or pick up the dance. And to take pride in what they do, and having their father there singing a song for them, and a lot of off camera, he was telling the kids to change the different styles of dancing or tell a story when they're dancing. And you see that in the final product. Then also with the jingle dress dancers, that we wanted the story to be about healing, and that's what that dress is. The jingle dress is a healing dance,
right? And
about the water, so we wanted it to be about healing and about community. So that's one of the things that we wanted to do, is to show people that we wanted to inspire people, we wanted to engage people, we wanted them to see things differently. And the fact that we're not just doing traditional music, we're combining, contemporary music with traditional music. And John Paul's great, combining the two, and then the classic roots as well. His track was amazing. And then, with my background with music, with Thunder Mountains, that it was a really nice mix. And I thought that everybody had their own interpretation of what the dance was going to be, and we kind of left it open to the dancers to choose how they wanted it to look and what we wanted it to sound like. And that's kind of what came out of this.
Right. Well, we're going to share some pictures of the hoop and jingle dress dancers. David, if you can talk through these pictures as we go through them, that would be wonderful.
Sure. So the first one, the first dancer is Segate counselor. She's a young girl dancing, and she was very, very. She's kind of like the boss, with the hoop dancing, and she really took control of it when she wanted to start dancing. And for a lot of people that in First Nations culture, hoop dancing among girls is not very popular. And she, when they started hoop dancing, she just took it. She just decided, this is what I want to do, and she started doing it. And her father and her family, they come from a long history of hoop dancers. So for her, it was very genuine and very, it just seemed like a natural course for her to share her dance.
Right.
So the next picture that we have there, we have Sagate and Kinu counselor together dancing. And when they were dancing together, I thought it was really neat, because they were always communicating with each other, throughout the entire dance. And they're constantly encouraging one another, or following each other's lead. And I thought that was really neat to watch them work together, because being young people, first of all, first time they'd ever been filmed doing anything like this. This is early in the morning that we're doing this. We're doing this at sunrise.
Right.
you know, and a 9-year-old and 10-year-old kid getting up at, 5 o'clock in the morning and getting them to dance at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's quite the accomplishment, So,
Yeah.
all the props to them, and all the props to their dad for really, really motivating them, and the energy that they brought, the father brought to the children was amazing. Like it was, you see it in the footage, like they had so much energy, and I was so amazed by that.
Yeah. You can even see it in the next picture here that it, just the picture just, I can feel the energy and power from it, with him holding that thing up right up into the air.
Yeah, he's doing what they call like the world. That's what he's putting up, and the shot of them together when they were doing this was that we wanted them to. That was kind of like their big moment when they were dancing, and I was so amazed by them, like their energy and their commitment, and we did a couple rehearsals, and these kids are absolutely amazing, and and I was explaining to them, like we want you to inspire people, but
Yeah.
don't worry about the cameras. You have to talk them through this stuff, right? And
Right.
get them to relax. And Donna was really, really great with them too, with encouraging them, and the film crew,
Yeah.
motivating them, like put your energy, if you're feeling tired, you're putting your, feeling frustrated, just put your energy into it, like put it all in there. And,
Absolutely.
and it
Yeah.
was really, really phenomenal.
For sure. And you can, I'm just looking ahead here at the jingle dress dancers. Their outfits are just, they're gorgeous. And like you said, they tell a story. Can you speak more to that one there where they're all together?
Yeah, absolutely. So the picture that you see there is, we actually covered up the fire pit, and we put a bowl of water there, and they're dancing around that. And one of the dancers, Charity, is the one that is holding a cup of water. So what they're doing is they're dancing, they're celebrating, the water, they're protecting the water, and the jingle dress is a healing dress. So it's all of those elements together. And then like we had pointed out before that two of them didn't have moccasins, and two of them had moccasins. So it was a neat shot, when they're putting it together, that it just kind of worked for them. And they put a lot of work into their regalia, like they're dancing, like one of the ladies there, the lady in the pink there, her material came from China.
Oh, wow.
So like this is like when they designed their regalia, when they designed their dresses, like they really look hard for their their material. So it doesn't just come from local areas; it comes from all over the country.
Yeah.
So it's their way of expressing their identity.
For sure. This next picture of Charity, I think what's the symbol of the bowl?
Well, the symbol of the bowl is she's holding the water.
Right. Okay.
And we Donna and I had we talked early on about what the process was with the dance, like Undercurrents, and it had water elements to it. It had all of these different elements about land and storytelling. And when I talked to Charity about the idea, she was the one that we did this vision around her, where we wanted water to be the element. And she's a young woman that is it looks great on on film and everything, but she's also got a really great personality, and she's got a really great story to her own history. Like she's not just a traditional dancer. She can do different kinds of dance. She can bring a lot of different elements to the music, and and she understands like the ceremonial part of the water, because she comes from that background where they take part in a lot of ceremonies, and she's very avid about her culture and her heritage.
Right. And the last picture here shows all three of them or I guess three of them out of the four anyway together here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's
wonderful.
that was kind of like the fun, the final shot there
Yeah.
of them, celebrating water, or giving thanks to the water. And it was a really neat moment when for charity, when we're bringing this all together. That I thought it was a neat moment for her to to express herself. And now she's holding the bigger bowl of
Right.
water, and it's that was the element that we really wanted to bring to the story, was about the healing, about the water,
Right.
and the campaign. They also had masks on there that was it says "Water is life,"
That's right.
and that was a theme that we felt very strongly about. Water is life, being from First Nation people that in the northern communities, they don't have drinking water still.
Mm-hmm.
And in the city of Thunder Bay here, we have we still have water issues, in our own community. So it was a really neat kind of story to be able to put that in there, where water is so important to our livelihood. Like we you can't live without it.
Yeah,
We're made up of
absolutely.
70% of water, right? So
Yeah.
it's a and without clean water, without clean drinking water, that's where a lot of sickness comes from. So water
Yeah.
is very important.
Yeah. Water is very important. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, David. I'm excited to see it all come together. We're
Yes.
going to say bye. We're going to say bye for now, but we'll be bringing you back just in a few moments to kind of wrap things up. All right. So next, we wanted to bring Thunder Bay community together through dance, and it seemed more relevant after sitting at home for the past 4 months. We encouraged anyone who wanted to participate to sign up. So I would like to welcome one of those community dancers, Tamara Rose. Hi, Tamara. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
When
My
you first
pleasure.
oh, good. When you first saw the call for community participants for Undercurrents, what drew you to the project? Why did you sign up?
I've been asking myself that for a long time. Yeah, I saw there's a notice, and right at the bottom in the smallest letters possible, it says no experience necessary. Yeah, and I was, I had been sitting around for far too long with COVID, and I decided that I needed to face one of my large fears of dancing in a group and having to follow.
Right. So I think you answered the next question, maybe. Did you have any dance experience before coming to this project?
Oh, I did. I started ballet when I was 5.
Oh, yeah.
But I quit when I was 6. And then I did have about a couple of years. I think I quit when I was 14 of jazz. And other than that, just into clubs.
Yeah. It's good. So since the dance studios were closed, like Donna Maria had mentioned earlier, the pandemic prevented people from learning the dance pieces in person. So like she said, she had to do videos, to upload, to share with people for them to learn on their own. How did you find that process, and especially as being someone that, dance is not as comfortable?
I just copied and looked really strange, so I'm glad my windows were closed. My curtains were drawn, and just kept practicing, and then she changed everything on us, and then we met at Hillcrest Park, and she said, no, just forget everything you learned. And luckily I actually hadn't learned it, and we went through it again, but it was nice. We're all like 6 feet away in these little groups, and we had masks and water and everything that we needed, and it was very organized. And I met like these young people, all kinds of new people that I didn't know. That was the best.
Yeah. How many pieces were you involved in?
I did the American Sign Language one, which was really cool. That was my favorite. And then I was in a sort of a jazz number on Trowbridge Falls.
Yeah. Would you do it again?
Absolutely. Yeah, she would. Donna didn't. She never hit me. She never yelled at me. She wanted expression rather than perfection. Yes. And I fit right into that.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Tamara.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick look at some pictures of the community pieces that Tamara, well, she was a part of some of them. There's others in here as well. Donna Marie is going to narrate for us again. So it's going to come on.
Tamara, I want to speak to that, what she said, which I think is amazing, which is, yes, it's true. The American Sign Language did change. This wonderful woman at deaf woman that I spoke with, that I had this very unusual conversation on Zoom with someone translating me, and there's four of us anyway, could not understand what I was doing. And it was actually a student of mine that originally did the ASL for us. And she said, I don't get what you're saying. So then we had to rejig it.
Wow.
So that is very interesting. And I was so worried about going to them to change it, but they were not phased at all.
Wow.
Yeah. So this first picture that you're seeing is the chair dance that that we spoke about in the sand. And there's Harmony Appel, Amber Prescott, Denise Mallet, Maggie Wilberforce, Cassandra Rhodes, and Alicia Cameron. And they were such a delight to work with. I didn't realize that they all ended up knowing each other. And again, they just signed up individually. So it was quite a fortuitous event when they finally came together and they say, oh, I know you, we worked together, we danced together at one point. It was quite lovely. The next picture is the one that Tamara was talking about, the American Sign Language section. This is at Hillcrest Park, and this is a sort of a back view of it. As they're doing it, they pass on a line all the way up the hill, and then they, so you'll see them from three vantage points, but one is coming towards the camera, one is moving away from the camera, and that is what you see in this picture. In the next picture, you're going to see them coming towards the camera. And you can see Tamara is actually the third person there in that image. You see Hui Pan, you see Cassandra Rhodes, you see Daniel Stilla in that picture as well. This part is one of my favorite parts of the whole piece, because for me it was important that we connect as much as we can with as many people as we can. And when I spoke with Carrie English, who's this lovely woman that helped us with this American Sign Language, we were texting back and forth. When she finally saw a little video of them in rehearsal, she was just speechless. Speechless. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. She said that she wishes the whole world was like this. It was so beautiful between how we were connecting and communicating. And then she did speak to me as well, and send me a little note, which was great. The next picture is in the iron ore docks. Again, a second vantage point. We see it actually 3 times in different ways. And this section right here was choreographed by Stephanie DePiro. Stephanie's in this picture, Nicole Avila, Jane Creamer, Jacqueline De Silva, Emma Dubinsky, Brianne Nistico, and Stephanie Vesna. And they were so fantastic. They had such energy, such power coming out of them. You can see that they have danced together before. And it was honestly, from the minute I saw them in rehearsal to then, it just got better and better and better. Very, very exciting. I can't wait for everyone to see that. This next picture is exactly what Tamara was saying. It's at Trowbridge Falls. It's on the bridge there. I really loved this bridge. It was very difficult to find a picturesque bridge, and this was the one that spoke to me. And we have Peyton Douglas, McKinley Hardy, Sarah and Megan Toffanetti, Tamara Rose, and Hui Pan. And yeah, these sections are so much fun. They're a lot more, there's more levity in these sections on the bridge, which is really necessary because there's some parts that are a little bit more lyrical in quality and tone. And so these were just a lot more fun. And same thing with this next picture coming up. This one is Melissa Braithwaite, Lorene Curry, Odine Goodsell, Terry Lynn Zaremski, and Faye Steadwell. And Faye is like a second mom to me. I really wanted to have an intergenerational piece. It was really important to me to make sure that we had a variety of bodies, a variety of individuals in this piece. And she is so vibrant in her 70s. It's unreal. And I just adore all of these ladies so much. And it was just really fun to have them and their energy, because I know how fun they can be in this piece too.
Oh, wonderful. I can't wait to see it all to come together. It's really exciting. So we're going to ask everyone to come back on screen. And we're just going to, before we end our panel, kind of throw out a couple questions for everyone. And feel free to chime in. We're going to try and keep it a little short. I think we're coming to an end here soon. So welcome back, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, so how does your connection to Thunder Bay and the area in Northwestern Ontario affect the work that you produce? Why do you think it's important? And anyone can start.
Sure. I can say for myself, because I have a home here, but I also don't live here all the time, that for me, coming home grounds me. The nature grounds me. I live in downtown Toronto, where there's lots of concrete, and funny enough, I'm also living on the water in Toronto. The water for me is sort of, as Dave says, it's life. Like, it feels like it breathes in through me. But when I come here, I breathe differently. I relax in a different way. And for me, Thunder Bay has always been that, the connection to earth and ground and water and all of those things. I feel so much healthier in some ways when I'm here in that way. So, and it does feel the work differently. It makes you think differently. My friends always say, gosh, you sound different when you're there. Interestingly enough. Yeah.
I'm going to throw out another question. What's your favorite thing about Thunder Bay and this region that we live in? There's a lot to think about, I think.
I'm going to say nature again.
Yeah.
I live on the hill and I see the sleeping giant every morning when I walk out my door, and it always looks different. I can even appreciate it in the winter. But in the summer, just the quality of the air, the leaves are every different color of green and beyond, and the quality of light. Mm-hmm. There's light for so long, and I just get so high and energized from having so much sunlight.
Yeah, wonderful. What are you excited for most about the release of Undercurrents in this year's festival?
Well, maybe if I can speak to that, I'm just excited to see, because this is an incredibly ambitious project on behalf of everybody. So I'm excited to have everyone that's been involved see what's actually happened. I know the musicians are just chomping at the bit to see what's happened with their songs. Not to mention the fact that some of them actually would like to release them as standalone tracks at some point in the future as well. And just to see the real, the amalgamation of all these different moving parts come together finally. It's just such an ambitious project, and I know that it's like looking at all the still photos, having heard the music and stuff like that, and knowing what the dancers are capable of, I'm sure we're all in for an incredible treat, and I just can't wait to see the whole thing come together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you to everyone for joining us tonight for our sneak preview of Undercurrents. One of the 6 dances will be released every day of the festival on our website, so make sure to tune in. We are also offering free 1-hour youth and adult masterclasses from the Tuesday to the Friday of the festival. So make sure to visit our website to find out more about those classes and to sign up before it's too late. There are limited spots in each class. And one of them is already full and on a wait list. So please check that out. We've also been supporting the development of 4 new plays and musicals. So to find out more about our indie stream section and our Alex the Artist section, go to our website to hear more about that creative process. And like I mentioned earlier, we are also holding an online fundraiser that I mentioned earlier, which I just said, in support of Beandigan on Saturday, August 22nd at 7 p.m. right on our website. We have songs, monologues, visual art, film, and spoken word from various artists in the city and from afar as well to entertain you with. So come check that out. We hope to see you there. Superior Theatre Festival runs from Tuesday, August 18th to Sunday, August 23rd on our website at www.superiortheatrefestival.com. Before we send you off for the evening, make sure to check in next week because Come Play With Me is doing a trivia night. There will be prizes to win that have been sponsored by local community theater groups. They did one of these before and it was a huge success. I did it. It was a lot of fun. So come join in next Wednesday, August 19th, 7:30, right here at Come Play With Me. And on behalf of Superior Theatre Festival, I want to give a huge thank you to Come Play With Me for hosting us tonight. It's been really great to share what we've been up to, and thanks for giving that platform to us. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you
Thanks
so
a lot.
much.
Night.